This is Jamie Drummond for Good Food Revolution. I am here at Carter's Vineyards in England with the owner of Carter's Vineyards, Mr. Ben Bunting. How are you today, sir?
I'm very well, thank you.
Now, many people would not be familiar with the whole concept of English wine. How long have you been making wine for here at Carter's Vineyards?
Close on 20 years now.
What kind of grape varietals are you playing about with here?
Well, they're mainly German rootstock. We have varieties such as Reichensteiner, which is our white wine, Bacchus, which is our main variety, which is grown extensively in this country and still in Germany, a variety called Orion, and also we have some Chardonnay, which goes into our sparkling wine. And for the reds, again, primarily German, Dornfelder, Dunkelfelder, Rondo, but we do have some Pinot Noir as well.
If you were to speak of a winemaking style that you have here at Carter's Vineyards, how would you describe that? How would you speak about the style of wine that you make here?
The style of wine I would describe as very English.
And what does that mean when you say very, very English?
Well, often English wine is described as sort of, I don't know, hedgerows and, well, the English sort of countryside.
Oh, I see. Yeah. And you mentioned sparkling wine. How much of your production is sparkling wine?
At the moment, it's fairly small. Probably about 10% of the vineyard is for sparkling wine production. But I think we are intending to expand next year, planting several more acres. And I think probably we will plant more sparkling wine varieties.
And what is the size of production, your average annual size of production here?
About 20,000 bottles.
Okay. And you mentioned Pinot Noir. How does Pinot Noir perform in the climes of your sunny region?
Well, it does exceptionally well, actually. We're very, very pleased with it.
And I noticed the alcohol in your wines is verging between 10.5, 12, I think there was a 12.5 there also. Yeah. Is this all natural alcohol that you have there, or do you go down the chaptalization route?
Yes, we do chaptalize some of the wines. That's for sure, yeah. And
I certainly don't think that's a bad thing, but there is some controversy about that, I believe, even in England.
Yes, there is. There's a lot of discussion. There's a lot of fors and against, and but for myself, I see no problem with chaptalizing.
Well, the French have been getting away with it for centuries, so I don't see any reason why we shouldn't be doing it here.
Well, indeed.
So, where do you see English wine on the world wine stage? How much English wine is actually exported? How much of it gets out with England?
I think very little, actually. But certainly, although we're a small industry, we are an expanding industry. We equate to about 4,000 or 5,000 acres at the moment throughout the UK, which is very, very small. But saying that, there's a lot more vines being planted as we speak.
So I have one last question for you. What does good food mean to you?
Good food to me means nice, fresh, local produce. That's important to me, actually, to know where my food comes from, and also to enjoy it with friends and family.
Well, Ben, thank you very much for joining us at Good Food Revolution today. Hopefully some of our viewers will have the chance to try some of your wines at some point in the future. Thank you very much again.
Thank you.
This is Jamie Drummond at Good Food Revolution. I'm here with Marty Crowell, away up in Vankleek Hill in Ontario, in a winery that I never realized existed. Marty, tell me a little bit about what you do up here.
Well, we make wine. We have 3 different varieties of grapes. We have a red called Cervengi that comes from Russia. We have a white called Frontenac Gris and a red called Frontenac, and they were developed at the University of Minnesota in the mid-90s. They have a cold climate viticultural part of their school and an extensive breeding program to develop grape varietals for cold climates that also make a beautiful wine. So all of our plants are hardy without any damage to them down to -40.
Wow. Now, have you experimented with any other varietals up here?
Yes, I have. The very first plantings I did were vitis viniferae, like Chardonnay, Pinot Noir, Merlot, Cabernet Sauvignon, all the wonders. Everything died.
Really?
It's just too cold. They die at around -20, and we get down into the -30s here. So then I started experimenting with different forms of hybrids. And after experimenting for about a dozen years, I came up with these varietals that suited my needs.
So when did you actually plant your first vines up here?
In the vineyard itself, not including the testing, was about 8 years ago.
8 years ago. And are you do you make wines that are VQA approved, or?
No, we're not in a VQA region here, and VQA really is a lobbying group on their own behalf. They don't care about anyone else in Ontario.
Oh, I understand that. What are the biggest challenges when it comes to making wine up here?
I wouldn't say that it's any different than anywhere else. In the past, in my background, I found myself living in the Haute-Médoc in Bordeaux, working at a chateau called Chateau Magnol, working in their vineyards, picking grapes, learning to make wine, working in their store. Then I went to go and work for a négociant called Berton et Goustier, B&G, in Bordeaux. And after that, I went to work in Champagne for Mum's Champagne and learned all about how champagne is made. And so in the experience that I've had in France, it's really not any different here. The challenge is the cold, and so you need the proper varietals to be able to meet that challenge. Otherwise, it's the same.
What size of production do you have here, Martin?
Right now, we're doing around 10,000 bottles a year.
Okay. And are you the only winery in this particular area?
The closest one is about 100 kilometers away.
Okay. And where do you feel Vankleek, I'm guessing that's what you would call this area.
Yeah.
Where do you feel the wines of Vankleek could go? Like, do you feel as if there is potential for other wineries to be established here?
As a matter of fact, that's a personal mission of mine. My mission is to have a dozen vineyards within 20 minutes of here within the next 10 years. I've already been approached by 8 potential people who would like to do something. They're all at various stages of being a wannabe. One of them is actually going to be planting next spring, which is a good thing. And I believe that we could become a viticultural area. We have a beautiful soil here. It's an extremely stony, sandy loam.
Mm-hmm.
Like, our fields are so stony you actually can't plow them. They're not good for traditional agriculture. You can't grow soybeans or corn or anything on them because you can't work the fields. And as a result of that, I believe, and my inspiration actually is Prince Edward County and what's happened there. And so I'd like to, on a small scale, try to replicate that here.
Well, Marty, thank you very much for joining us at Good Food Revolution today. It's a pleasure to be in this part of the world, and a delight to discover that you're actually making wine up here.
Cheers. Thanks.